Hey everyone, it's Justin here with Voices for Voices. Thank you so much for joining us on this powerful episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Thank you for being with us. If this is your first show, welcome. If you've been with us from the beginning and all the way to where we're at now, over 300 episodes later, welcome and thank you so much for your love and your support of being there for us, watching, listening, sharing. Just thank you. If you can give us a big thumbs up, like, follow, share, subscribe. If I'm missing something, all those are free and they all help us, the Voices for Voices, expand our audience in helping uh, 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Yeah, and so today is a very powerful episode. We're going to be memorializing an individual who was uh, got caught up with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and the like. But first, wanted to tie in some current events uh, to uh, what uh, what's actually what has occurred recently, because I think it's very important to have that information as we continue with this episode. And that is so breaking last week, depending on what time you watch and listen to this. Uh, James Comer put together subpoenas for the Clintons. So that includes the former president, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Merrick Garland, and more. And you're probably wondering, okay, what's this have to do with what we're going to be talking about? Well, it's very widely known and publicized. We're not given any information that isn't already out in the public domain. What we were doing is we were sharing it for reach and for survivors and anybody who may be themselves caught up in something and maybe not sure. Or maybe you know somebody that may be in a vulnerable position and that you may be able to help. So how do these subpoenas that have been sent out? We're going to focus on the Clintons, and we're going to focus on past President Bill Clinton. It's very well known, very publicized. Been to Epstein Island, according to current President Donald J. Trump. Over 20 times he was there. There were at least one photo that was released that showed former President Bill Clinton at an airport near Epstein Island, and he was just sitting uh, in one of the chairs. Anybody's ever traveled, air travel, there's chairs galore, as you wait for your flight and that. And so he was sitting there and he was looked like getting a massage, like on his shoulders. So that's public domain. That isn't anything that is breaking news that's not been put out in the public domain. And it's been out there for quite a bit of time. So just wanted to share that first as we continue, because sometimes we get feedback that that we're conspiracy theorists and all that, and we're not. We're trying to help uh, the public, because we think that anything trafficking related, anything that can be uh, associated with that, among others, is a public safety, public health concern. Whereas we don't want to see others caught up in getting involved in one way or another. And so that's why we're putting this show together. And I just want to also mention something. So yeah, the shirt I have on, it has Ultras here as a brand. We're not promoting Ultras as a brand. It just is on the shirt that I am wearing today. So there's no endorsement, there's no sponsorship from them, and I wanted to share that as well. So we're going to be talking about the uh, the, the the trafficking victim who decided to come out and share her story, and she is the individual that is in that photo, at least one with President Clinton. Uh, and wanted to share that as well, as there is also a uh, yeah uh, yeah, so it's crazy. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the fact. We're going to get into um, what ultimately happened was Virginia, in her last name, is I'm I apologize if I misstate it and don't say it correctly. Virginia Giuffre, so that is Giuffre, and and so she the memorialization of this show is for her because she died by suicide at her home in near Gabby, Western Australia, on April 25th, 2025, almost 3 years after the statement, which we're going to read, was read in court. And this was also the day where Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years and fined $750,000 for sex trafficking, conspiracy to sex traffic, and transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual abuse. And Virginia Giuffre, she was 17 years old when she met Ghislaine Maxwell. And I want to thank One Mom's Battle, Tina Swithin, for bringing this even more out to light. Check out One Mom's Battle on Facebook. We had Tina as a guest on one of our earlier episodes, so go ahead and check that out. Uh, great great interviews, and I believe we cut 2 episodes. So uh, that's where we're getting into. So we want to bring things front and center, right? So we have Clinton's getting subpoenaed about the Russia hoax, uh, but former President Bill Clinton is connected to this with the picture with him and Virginia, who was 17 at the time, and that's where we're going to really get started here. And what I'm going to do is really just go into her statement, and so we're going to be quoting Virginia Giuffre. Uh, I guess if we want to be super technical, Virginia Louise Giuffre Roberts, because she was married at the time of her passing. Uh, and so let's get into her statement, then we'll get into a little bit of her background, and then we're just going to go from there. Uh, so quote, 22 years ago in the summer of 2000, you spotted me, referring to Ghislaine Maxwell. You spotted me at Mar-a-Lago. And so we've also heard comments from President Donald J. Trump that Virginia worked at Mar-a-Lago in the spa, and that he felt that Mr. Jeffrey Epstein was stealing, workers from the spa from his Mar-a-Lago uh, resort, his spa there. Back to the statement from Virginia. You chose me. So again, the you is referring to Ghislaine Maxwell. You chose me and procured me for Epstein. Just hours later, you and he abused me for the first time. Together, you damaged me mentally. Oh, here we go. So as which tends to happen, I began I begin a segment, and then the segment kind of turns into uh, we have these facts here uh, that we're sharing here, and so I am scrolling back into where I left off, and as we do this, we don't condone any actions by Mr. Epstein, by Ghislaine Maxwell, or anybody who has ulterior motives uh, for having wanting to take advantage of human beings or animals, because sometimes we see that does occur too. And as we're continuing to get back to where we were statement wise from Virginia, it's important from a mental health standpoint because when events and things happen, you might not be able to see that on the outside. Some things you may be able to see, uh, some injuries, but others we may not. And that brings it inside to our mind. And, from a trauma, a recovery, a dream, right? Trying to get some sleep and having, kind of these recurring thoughts and nightmares that are associated with whatever event or events occurred. That can be very draining mentally, uh, and have us in a somewhat constant state of depression and being down, and feeling like we're questioning our lives, like what are we doing here? Uh, wish something was different. I could have handled something differently, and I wasn't in the space and time or area and time that that I could have affected this a little bit differently. And that's really what, from a mental health standpoint, where us as humans and really anybody, it's difficult to go through and rethink, these uh, particular events because they don't just go away. And I think that's one thing that can't be stated enough. Where uh, well, just forget about it, or just go for a walk, or just take a deep breath. Well, yeah, those are some coping mechanisms. Well, I'll give you that. But when we're talking about this trauma, really in general, some of it's very hard to, you can't just let it go. You can try to, and that's what uh, kind of comes up here. Uh, but as we reach this point, I have just got back to this statement. So here we are. Okay. Just gonna start it all over just because Had a little bit of an interlude there, so thanks for sticking with us. So again, Virginia Louise Giuffre Roberts, she passed away by suicide, uh, seen in a photo many years ago with ex-President Bill Clinton giving him what looks like to be a massage in the airport near Epstein Island in Virginia. Uh, Made these statements 22 years ago. So we're quoting, and again, one mom's battle. Tina Swithin, check that out. Check her page out. Huge advocate. Please do that. And again, we had her on an earlier show. So Virginia says, in quote, 22 years ago, in the summer of 2000, you spotted me at Mar-a-Lago and you made a choice. You chose to follow me and procure me for Epstein, referring to Jeffrey Epstein. Just hours later, you and he abused me together for the first time. Together, you damaged me physically, mentally, sexually, and emotionally. Together, you did unthinkable things that still have a corrosive impact on me to this day. I want to be clear about one thing. Without question, Jeffrey Epstein was a terrible uh, pedo, fill in the blank, but I never would have met Jeffrey Epstein if not for you. Virginia is referring to Ghislaine Maxwell. Following Virginia's statement, for me and for so many others, you opened the door to hell. And then, Ghislaine, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, you used your femininity to betray us, and you led us all through it. When you did that, you changed the course of our lives forever. You joke that you were like a new mother to us. As a woman, I think you understood the damage that you were causing, the price you were making us victims pay. You could have put an end to the rapes, the molestation, the sickening manipulation that you arranged, witnessed, and even said pardon. You could have called the authorities and reported that you were part of something awful. I was young and naive when we met, but you knew that. In fact, you were counting on it. My life as a young person was just beginning. You robbed me of that by exploiting my hopes and ambitions. Ghislaine, the pain you have caused me is almost indescribable. Because of your choices and the world you brought me into, I don't sleep. Remember what I was referring to? Nightmares wake me at all hours. In those dreams, I relive the awful things that you and others did to me and the things that you forced me to do. Those memories will never go away. I have trouble meeting new people without questioning if somehow they're going to hurt me too. There is not a day that doesn't go by that I don't ask why. Why did you enjoy hurting us so much? I worry every single day and night that you will get away with it and evade being punished. I will worry about that until you're brought to justice. And what should that justice look like? Ghislaine, you deserve to spend the rest of your life in prison, in a jail cell, trapped in a cage forever, just like you trapped your victims. So that statement was made by Virginia Louise Giuffre Roberts. Uh, and she died by suicide at the age of 41 at her home in near Gabby, Western Australia on April 25th, 2025, which was almost 3 years after this statement we just read was read in court the day Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years and fined $750,000 for sex trafficking, conspiracy to sex traffic, and transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual abuse. And as stated, Virginia was 17 when she met Maxwell, and uh, and so this is a survivor. She has tragically passed by suicide, but her story needs to live on because she's a survivor and she chose to come and step uh, out of the shadows and talk about things that others, it sounds like, were also victims of and are victims of. Uh, and so we constantly get asked, why do you cover this? Why do you cover this? What is it about human trafficking? Why? Number one, again, it's a public safety, public health concern. When people are taken from their families, their loved ones against their will, and are forced to do, you know, sexual things. There could be labor traffic for their work, or both, or a combination, sold to this person, then that person, then another person, and then flown on a plane to this country and that country, and uh, so that's why we're putting this episode together. Is we want to show that uh, number one, you can step out of the shadows. You can talk about it as hard as it is. Uh, I know with my trauma and the things that I went through, and some of them were my fault and some weren't. I'm willing to own up the things that I I did that were not on the up and up. But on the other hand, as well, there's things that I didn't do to myself that occurred, and so that also needs to be thought about. So the fact that Virginia had that statement read in court that day Ghislaine Maxwell was um, the day she was sentenced. The interesting part is, well, number one, as I mentioned, former President Bill Clinton went to Epstein Island over 20 times, as pictured with Virginia. Uh, so there's that. And so that ties into the current news, the other current news, that the Clintons and others have been subpoenaed for their potential alleged involvement in the Russia hoax. Uh, and so all this kind of ties together. Uh, and that's one of the reasons why we're connecting the dots, because we feel it's so important. Uh, Now, Virginia also died by suicide, which there's some questions around that. Of, she's coming out, she's talking, she's sharing, she wants to help others, and it is so unfortunate that that occurred. Um, it's just so unfortunate, and survivors and anybody that's gone through any type of stressful environment, stressful time, uh, been bullied or left out of the crowd, and whatever that may be, you have a voice. Whether you're able to speak like this with the spoken word, if you're watching, listening, whether it's sign language interpretation, some people write, and so that's their way of sharing their voice is by writing, and that could be, novels, screenplays, music, singing or playing instruments. Uh, is also a way of sharing the voice. There's so many ways that we're all able to share our voice in one way or another. Some may come across as louder than others, like my voice might come across a little bit louder, and might come across a little louder than, the written word on the page of a novel, pages of novels, stories, novellas, etc. But we all have a voice. And so that's why That's another reason why we're putting this episode together, is we want to highlight a survivor who stepped out from the shadows and shared her story. And we want that to continue to live on because that's what Virginia, that's what she deserves, to have this continue to carry on. You know, her background, that she was married. She was born August 9th, 1983. So she's 2 years younger than I am. And she was born in Sacramento, California, and she passed away by suicide again on April 25th, 2025, at the age of 41. I'm 43. She was 41. It's just oh, just terrible. Uh, Her citizenship, so she had dual citizenship with Australia and United States. She put together an organization called SOAR. Again, so she was using her voice, and SOAR stands for Speak Out, Act, Reclaim. So SOAR, the S stands for speak, the stands for out, the A stands for act, and the R stands for reclaim. And this was formerly known as Victims Refuse Silence. Uh, and clearly, Virginia is known for advocating of justice for sex trafficking survivors. Uh, Not only was she a spouse to Robert Giuffre, uh, she had 3 children. Just, oh my gosh, just unthinkable. And so she was an advocate. So she endured some of what I can't even imagine what she had to endure. We talked through her statement, and uh, it's it's hard. Uh, mm. But yeah, so this is, you know, how Virginia is connected to Jeffrey Epstein, to Ghislaine Maxwell, as that statement was read in court that we read, uh, and how former President Bill Clinton uh, was also in the fold, not just with his visits to Epstein Island over 20 times, according to the current president, Donald J. Trump, but there's a photo of Virginia and former President Bill Clinton in that airport. And yeah, he said, yeah, you know, a neck massage. And so that's what was going on there. Uh, just an absolute shame. So Virginia pursued criminal and civil actions against Epstein and Maxwell. And then she definitely stepped out and appealed really directly to the public. So that's what I'm talking about, public concern, public safety concern. When people are being injured and hurt, allegedly, mentally, physically, spiritually, uh, just oh my gosh, I just can't even think. So she was stepping out for the public, for justice and awareness. Uh, the documents from court were unsealed from a earlier civil suit by Giuffre against Maxwell, and they were released to the public August 9th of 2019, further implicating Maxwell, Epstein, and a number of their associates. So these documents get released, and then the following day, what happens? Jeffrey Epstein was found not alive in his Manhattan prison cell. Uh, And there was also another interview that aired on December 2nd of 2019 for the BBC Panorama, where Giuffre described her experience of being sex trafficked by Epstein to Prince Andrew, which helped shift the public opinion against the prince. And she subsequently sued the prince in civil court in New York. It was settled. Prince Andrew paid an undisclosed amount in making a substantial donation to her charity. And Giuffre died at the age of 41 in April of 2025. So just a few months ago. So we talk about disinformation, we talk about the facts, we talk about the connections of names, of people, of alleged crimes and abuse. And we're bringing this, we're bringing this to the public because number one, it's public information. So Wikipedia, court documents, or uh, they have that the information. Uh, and so that's one of the big things, right? We want to protect everybody. We want to protect the general public. We want to protect our families. Uh, yeah. And so just as far as how things got started, I want to be clear. In the mid 2000s, Giuffre met Ghislaine Maxwell when she was working as a spa attendant at President Donald J. Trump's private Mar-a-Lago club while reading a book about massage therapy. Uh, Maxwell approached Giuffre, noted the book that she was reading, inquired about her interest in massage, and offered her a potential job working for Epstein as a traveling masseuse with the assurance that no experience was necessary. Uh, Giuffre is quoted as say they, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, seemed like nice people, so I trusted them. And I told them I'd had a really hard life up until then. I'd been a runaway. I'd been sexually abused, physically abused. Uh, that was the worst thing I could have told them because they then knew how vulnerable she was. Uh, yeah, it's just a very uh, it is just a hard thing to really wrap your arms around. And the decision to speak out publicly and to start an organization again called SOAR, Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, and they use a blue butterfly as a symbol of transformation and empowerment for the survivors of sexual abuse. So she decided to step out publicly, and that's hard to do anyways, just about anything. Uh, could be about a sports team, like, oh, what's going on? Why did they trade this player? Why didn't they sign this player? Uh, Speaking out publicly on any medium. I mean, there's so many podcasts, so many shows, so many ways, especially with TikTok and others out there where we pick up our phones and we can put something together, and it's it's hard. I know from the mental health side, it's hard for me to write my mental health memoir, Prescription for Living, The House of You. It was hard to come to the realization that that was something that I wanted to do, that I wanted to put my name to. Just had no idea how and what would occur. when people read it or hear about it, uh, it's uh, from experience, it's just hard. It's a little bit easier now because we've done over 300 episodes, but it's still hard, whether we're in the studio or whether we're filming on location or at home or wherever. It's still hard because the mental side, things get inside our heads, and then we only have, let's say, right, we have 100%, right? So we have a, let's say, a pie, and the pie is 100%. And if we have like 30% of that pie that's tied up with past trauma, past abuse, past whatever, that percentage is not room in our brain where we can do other things more productive, more healthy. Uh, and so by talking, by well, therapy, medication, combination, coping mechanisms, uh, there's so many ideas out there. And what I just want to say is you got to find what works for you. What works for the author or what worked or what seems to work for the author, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I'm told constantly that I should just be fine now because, well, you should be able to do all the things, and trauma and that shouldn't affect you because, well, you made it through. I made it through like some of the hardest times for me, but I didn't make it through everything. There's still things that come up that I try to block out, try to, use my coping mechanisms to get through. There's days where I am depressed beyond belief, where, that whole, you're questioning, like, is what I'm doing making a difference? Am I helping people? And that's the goal. That's why else are we here? Why to just work, make money, and then die? I mean, well, I forgot pay taxes because that's also in there. You know, is is that all what it's about? Is that all life is about? Uh, where I'm at now, I don't. I believe I'm here for a reason, that I'm still here for a reason. I totaled my car falling asleep in my 20s. Or actually, might not even been 20, maybe not 19 or so. Uh, but totaled the car, fell asleep, was up too late on a trip, and then decided to go do something else. And then it was late, and I was just really tired and totaled my car. I made it. I was alive. I made the decision to take 32 cold and cough pills. Ended up in the hospital, could have died from that. Somehow I made it through. I don't know how. It had to be God. I mean, yeah, we have our bodies and we have processes where they, try to repair and get bad things out of the body and all that. Uh, but there's got to be more than that. And like with Virginia having her organization SOAR, with me having the organization Voices for Voices, I just think that part of what I'm meant to do and meant to be doing on Earth for my days that I'm here, it's left. Virginia passed when she was 41. I'm older than that by a couple of years. And so we start to really, as we talk about these stories and people go, oh, these are conspiracy theories and whatnot. No, these are facts. These are in the public domain. I'm not saying anything that's private, that's been sealed. There's all information that's out there. All we're doing is bringing it to light again. We're putting it out in the public domain so that we can potentially help at least one person through some form of trauma experience, feel empowered, inspired to do something that they wanted to do, that you wanted to do, and felt that you couldn't, or you're ashamed of yourself. I feel ashamed of myself many days, many days. And so we look at shows and podcasts. Those are the times where we, I don't want to say look our best because it's not always the times we look our best or sound our best. It just comes across that, well, you're okay, you're healed, you're whatever. And maybe on that day, maybe at that instant, like right now, like at this instant, I'm able to talk uh and share. And so giving a memorial episode to somebody who endured through public documents and confirmation some very awful events, that their lives weren't lived in vain. They weren't. And so we want Virginia, her children, her husband, and everybody across the world that hears or listens to this message. We want to, and we want to share her life and some of the hardest things anybody should have to, nobody should have to endure what she endured and what a lot of people have and continue. And we, again, that's something we don't want. And we think that by just sharing a story like Virginia's, where she didn't have to speak out, she could have just remained, I'll say in the shadows, but just remained out of the public eye. She didn't have to talk. She didn't have to share. She didn't have to start an organization. She didn't have to speak publicly on on BBC. She didn't have to have that statement read in court when Ghislaine Maxwell was being sentenced. And so that's kind of where I look at like, well, I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to share about it. That's the easy thing to do is just to let it be. But I don't think I don't think that that is healthy in this instance. And we've had multiple episodes talking about different things and uh, different people and different levels of society. And bring it back to former President Bill Clinton. I remember going to during his presidential run. I remember going with my family to one of his campaign stops locally at the Akron, the Goodyear hangar where they have the blimps at. Uh, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember going to it, and um, I don't think I was old enough to vote at that time. So I'm not here to judge people. I'm not here to judge former President Bill Clinton. I'm not here to judge Ghislaine, Virginia, and others. I'm just here to speak the truth in good faith and share information that quite possibly could help somebody not not want to take their life or want to start a band or want to write a memoir, a book, a pamphlet, uh, maybe want to write a song, maybe act in a play or whatever that may be. The sky's the limit. Another part why I'm doing this episode is I want people to I want people to dream. And for me, it was so hard during my lowest, and there's still times it happens where I'm afraid to go to bed. I'm afraid to go to sleep at night. I don't know where that comes from, but it happens. And at my lowest, I remember a lot of people saying, well, you just, try meditating and that. Well, for somebody who felt and still feels time to time that afraid to close my eyes. Is it going to be the last time I'm going to close my eyes? Am I going to wake up in the morning? I mean, we all kind of don't. We don't know, no matter who we are. And so I sometimes stay up later than I should. I don't go to bed, at the time that I should because I have like a little bit of that subconscious fear. And that's why I had at my lowest and for all those years into my 30s. And to give a very vivid example, the big thing for me that happened was when I would close my eyes and if you're following a meditation or whether you're trying to just meditate or just think of go to your happy place, go somewhere where you feel comfortable in your mind. Well, when I closed my eyes, I didn't want to close my eyes because I didn't know if I would wake up. And then on top of that, when I would close my eyes and I would try to calm my mind down and think about happy place, uh, whether that's going for a walk on the beach, whatever that is. Well, every time I would do that, there would always be a shark that would come and be coming, whether it was in the water, out of the water. When I'd close my eyes. If I was picturing myself uh, on a pier at a dock with my feet over the edge, the shark would come and bite my legs and and so then that would shake me and I would wake up and go, oh my gosh. And so when people talk about, well, you just need to do this and do that. Well, I didn't pick the shark. I had no I don't know how that even came about, but it did. And it's true. And so we need to just be kinder to ourselves, to others, because we don't know what they're going through. We don't know. And Virginia was so brave, and her legacy is going to live on. That she was somebody that was taking situations and events and wanted to help people all the way up to her last days. So when I talk about, well, what are we here for? What are humans here for on Earth? Oh, to accumulate all these, things, whether it's cars or yachts or airplanes or homes or musical instruments or technology. I don't know. Is that what we're here for? Is it? I don't believe it is. I don't believe that that's all we're supposed to do. Like the rat race of, well, here's what we do, here's what we've always done, and this is just the way it is. And so we got to do it that way. And if we don't, and you're not succeeding and you're not doing this and that and the other, then you're failing. I don't believe I'm failing. There's days I feel like it, but as a whole, I don't feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm helping. I feel like our organization's helping. I feel like our guests are helping. Our uh, the topics, the information we share and talk about are helping. There's a cancer survivor that reached out. I'm not going to name them or who they are or where exactly they're from, but uh, why we do what we do. And and when we got feedback that this individual came across Voices for Voices, our TV show and podcast, and I don't know what episode it was or what episodes they were that they watched or listened to, but something struck a chord with them. And now Voices for Voices is something that she or he, and I'm not giving information out, uh, that helps them or empowers them. And so that's one way. Another way is a post that we put out just the other day, actually. And da, 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 da. The post is so this is from one of our guests. Quote, I feel heard. My profession is so often misunderstood, and your questions and presence made me feel like you get it. Thank you so much. Voices for Voices guest. And so I call that the why. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we uh that's one of the reasons why. And so for us to impact a guest, that's it, it's so awesome. Like it's hard to put words together. I mean, that's kind of the hope that we're helping in one way or another. Uh, and so that's so, I mean, it gives you goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps thinking about that. Like, wow, like this is a real thing. This isn't just a figment of my imagination, of our imagination. So thanks for sticking with us for this show, as well as all the other shows. Again, I believe this is episode 305 or six. It just depends on when we get this all processed from a after production standpoint. One last thing I do want to share, you may have seen our social media posts. Not only that, that statement, that comment from uh, a past guest on our show that I just read. You'll also see, as we're getting lots of questions on, I don't, I don't want to download Spotify or iHeart and that's okay. And so while we do have options, if you do listen on Spotify or iHeart or the other many other audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, and name another one, uh, or whether you watch on YouTube or Rumble, that uh, you're still able to, without an app, no matter where you're at, as long as you have access to the internet, there is, I'm just gonna read this verbatim from a recent post of ours that addresses whether, uh, well, I don't have this app and I don't want to, things just don't match up. Everybody does things a little bit differently, and that's okay. And this is why we were addressing this. Should have addressed it a while back, but it's one of those things. Well, we we're addressing it now, and that is, so I'm going to again quote uh, the post, and that is from us, Voices for Voices, on our social media platforms. And it says, did you know you can check out all 300 plus episodes of our show with no app required? So you don't have to have an app to watch us, to listen to us. If you go to voicesforvoices.org/podcast, you can listen to every single episode. Old episodes, most recent, they're there. And I'm gonna try to get this where hopefully it's able with this way this background situation goes. Okay, let me try it that way. So you should see www.voices for, and the four is spelled out, FOR, voices.org/podcast. So that is www.voicesforvoices.org/podcast. And you can get the Voices for Voices podcast. No app required. So share that with your friends, family, colleagues, on your social media platforms yourselves. Uh, let people know. That's a big way to do that without having to worry about an app. If you're traveling, if you're on your phone, and then you're at home or somewhere else, and you have access to a computer, that's where you can find all of our shows. And that's something that, again, we should have probably talked about that earlier, not waited 300 episodes to get here. But this is something that we finally came around to, uh, responding to some of that feedback of, well, I don't want to I don't want to download another app, or I don't know how to use it, because some of them are pretty tricky. And trying to get the most recent episode, sometimes you gotta scroll what feels like forever to get to the newest episode. And so it's kind of like, man, how about you just go to voicesforvoices.org/podcast, and right there at the top you have the most recent podcast episode that has dropped. So I invite you to and encourage you to check that out. Check our that website. That's our website. It's a real website, and you can catch all our episodes there. Uh, no app required, no money required. Uh, and we just want to say thank you for everything that you have done, helping us share hope, inspiration uh, to so many people. Thank you very much. We love you, and want to say God bless you. God bless everybody across the entire world, and especially God bless you if you're in Ukraine, and God bless you And God bless the United States of America. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye for now.